Hi guys, so today I want to take you through some creative modifications for compression strength training. My name is Verity. I am an online aerial coach specializing in strength and conditioning, helping aerialists to achieve the skills that matter to them with sustainable practice. So compression strength is something that I am very passionate about, maybe slightly obsessed with. It's super important in aerial. It's used in an awful lot of skills, and good compression strength just allows for better movement and better control in the air. What I want to go over today are some different ways that you can modify different compression drills to make them more accessible. So sometimes we just need the help of a prop or changing the way that our body is positioned or the way that we're moving to make an exercise easier for our body to understand and therefore more effective. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to look at is what you can do if you're struggling with holds. We're going to use the hanging L as an example for this. So for my hanging L, I want nice active shoulders and upper back, thinking about rotating my armpits forwards, and then I'm lifting my legs up into this position. So I'm trying to create a 90-degree angle in the front of my hip. I am using my core for this, and I am using my hip flexors and my quads. If this exercise feels too challenging, we can modify it by bending the legs. So you can absolutely go from here to make it more doable. But what happens if you just cannot make the jump from bent legs to straight legs? If every time you're trying to straighten your legs and your legs drop, it can feel a little bit disheartening. So we're going to look at how we can simulate the exact position that we want with the assistance of a band. So I have my trusty band here. You can use any thickness of band. If you want more support, you can either use a couple of this kind of size, or you can use a thicker band and then it will just give you more help. I'm going to choke the band around my bar. So obviously this only works on bar apparatus. This is a bit more challenging to try and recreate on verticals. So I recommend doing this off a bar like mine or hoop or trapeze. So what I'm going to do is pull the band down, put one foot through, and I want the band to be on my Achilles or the back of my calf. I'm then going to hang on my bar and I'm going to bring the other foot through, and then I'm in my hanging L. So I've got the support of the band. I'm not having to take all of the weight of my legs, but I am still having to work to hold this position. And then step one leg out and hold the band to safely bring the other leg out. So this is a really nice way to help you with being able to hold a position that feels more challenging, and hold it for a longer period of time with the correct form and the correct muscle engagement, where maybe you wouldn't be able to do that without it if you don't yet have the strength in your core and hip flexors. All right, so we're going to have a look at what you can do if you're struggling to lift your legs. So by this, I mean if you are hanging from your bar or your apparatus and you're struggling to engage your lower body to pull your legs up. So this could be bent legs, it could be straight legs as well. We're going to look at knees to chest, so doing this exercise with bent legs. And the way that we're going to help this exercise is by adding a yoga block. So I have my trusty yoga block here, and what I'm going to do with this is put it between my knees and squeeze it. So sometimes when we're trying to engage our hip flexors or engage our legs when we're in a hang, it can actually be quite difficult to know how to create that engagement when there isn't any additional feedback, because we're just lifting our legs in empty space. And one of the nice things about squeezing a block is it actually brings in more muscle engagement from the lower body, which can make it easier to lift your legs and lift them higher. So I'm going to put the block right here, then I'm just going to shuffle around and come under my bar. I'm going to come into my nice active hang. I'm going to squeeze the block hard with my knees, and then I'm going to pull my knees up to my chest. So already just from squeezing the block, I feel like my adductors, so the inside of my thighs, are more engaged. I feel like my quads are also more engaged because I have this feedback. And it's almost like because there is more muscular tension through my legs become lighter, and it feels easier to fold at the hips, compress at the hips, and pull my knees into my chest. So this is a really nice exercise to try if you need help with lifting your legs higher in a hanging position. So the next thing that we're going to look at is what you can do if you are struggling to engage the muscles in the first place. So if you just feel like you don't understand how to create that compression in the first place, we're going to look at how adding a prop can help with this. So really with compression strength, we want to have the ability to fully close the angle of the front of the hip, whether we are on the floor, in a handstand, or in a hang. So by this I mean being able to squeeze and actively maintain that squeeze and hold that position. If it feels like you just don't understand how to create that closed angle of the hip, then adding something to squeeze between your quad and stomach can be really helpful. So I'm going to take this ball. You can use something similar, or you can essentially use any prop that feels like it's the right kind of size but gives you enough feedback to squeeze against. And I'm going to actually put this in the front of my hip like so. So I want to make sure that this isn't going to fall out of place. So I'm already actively thinking about pulling my knee up towards my chest and trying to close the angle of the front of the hip. And then if I'm doing this in a hang, I'm going to come here and then I'm going to try and squeeze the ball really hard. You can try extending your legs, or you can just hold this position. But immediately, because I've got this prop to squeeze, it's creating a kind of feedback that wasn't there before. And my brain immediately understands that what I'm trying to do is squeeze the ball. So I'm not even thinking about the fact that it's compression strength, but I understand that in order to keep the ball in place and not let it fall out of my hip, I have to be doing this big compressive action. So the last thing that we're going to have a look at is what you can do if you're struggling to control one of your compression drills, particularly from a hang. So oftentimes it can feel like we just have to bang our heads against a wall with an exercise until it starts to click. And that shouldn't be the case. There are ways to modify and adjust if you aren't ready for a specific drill. So we're going to look at this exercise. So you can see with this drill, I'm compressing, and then I'm trying to slowly lower my legs down. If you feel like you don't yet have the strength to control that negative part of the movement, so the legs lowering down, a really nice way that you can modify this is simply to take some of the weight away from your arms and from your legs and use your feet as training wheels for support. I'm going to come into my hang but keep my feet on the floor, and then I'm going to do one leg at a time, compress, compress, and then slowly lower down. Compress, compress, slowly lower down. So I'm still keeping a nice active hang, like I'm still engaging my shoulders and upper back. This part of my body isn't switched off, but it's obviously taking a bit less of the weight. And so the focus can be more about what's going on in each side of my body, in the front of the hip, as I do one side at a time. It means that I can do the exact same movement pathway, but with control, because I've taken some of the difficulty away from it. So this is just another example of how you can modify an exercise to make it more accessible, to allow somebody to be able to do the movement with really good form and actually focusing on the right muscles rather than trying to do something that they're either not ready for or just don't yet have the ability to fully control to get the most from the exercise. So I hope that some of these tips have been helpful and you feel like you have a way of going away and applying them and giving them a try. I want to be really clear that what I've shared today, they're not hard and fast rules around how you should adjust an exercise that focuses on compression strength. These are just ideas that I have explored in my own training and with clients, in my attempt to try and make compression strength training more accessible to a broader range of levels. I'm really a big believer in that you shouldn't just throw your body at an exercise until it clicks. Like if you physically cannot do something, there is always a way to modify or regress it so that you can still be training the same strength, skill and control elements from that exercise, but at a level that actually suits where you're currently at. So accessibility is really the main theme of this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe.